If you are a marketer or a sales leader and you are thinking about implementing a social selling program to generate more revenue, this video is for you. I'll give you a solid foundation of what you should consider to avoid pitfalls and save your time and budget. More and more companies have already concluded that just one LinkedIn training is not sufficient to ensure a real return on investment from social selling. Implementing social selling is a transformational process that should be developed via an official agenda. It requires a conscious start and appropriate development. Additionally, it's impossible to compare one program to another because each organization is at a different stage of preparation and digital maturity. Each has different resources. Therefore, it's necessary to analyze companies' current status before introducing changes. And since marketing is usually the program's initiator, they should be responsible for this initial analysis and background check. And what exactly should you analyze as a program owner? Social selling maturity audits that I conduct in my consulting work usually includes between 60 and 80 questions that allow me to look around and get to know the organization better. Only then am I able to prepare a strategy embedded in organizational reality. Social selling programs requires 4 main pillars: commitment and buy-in, marketing, sales, and the last one, tools, support, and measurement. And I'm gonna unveil 3 most essential questions and answers that you need to be aware of within these 4 areas. Let's get started with the first one: commitment and buy-in. First question: why do you consider implementing a social selling program altogether? What is the purpose? Is it customer acquisition, sales development, or retention of existing customers? A common approach is to focus on acquiring customers, although digital support for activities on the existing database may generate revenue faster. It's like picking the fruit from the lowest branches. So take into consideration not only acquisition goals, but also retention and development. At the end of the day, it's revenue that is the primary purpose. Second question: what is the attitude of the management board and sales leaders to social selling? If the management board or sales leaders are reluctant, skeptical, we can hear, for example, that social media isn't an appropriate place to support real sales. Therefore, you need to prepare a program that is a joint project of both the head of sales and marketing. And how to do this? If you feel that you don't have sales leaders mentally on board, hold the implementation of the program. First, secure the buy-in. They need to see the potential of using social selling in sales. There are a few things you need to cover during the buy-in phase. First, explain what exactly social selling is. There are many misconceptions, and they could think that social selling replaces whole sales process. Then put forward reasons why other companies use social selling, including buying process changes and analysis of your competitors' presence on LinkedIn. The next step is to clarify what kind of challenges salespeople can address with this strategy. And what's more, it's advisable to show the representation of your strategic customers and ideal customer profile on LinkedIn. And the last thing that I highly recommend is discussing their concerns and answering all the questions to dispel their doubts. The next question within the first pillar is: what is the salespeople's attitude towards social selling? Have they ever used social selling, and what was the effect? If historically salespeople in your organization have tried their hand at social selling but it was ineffective, you should identify what particular activities they took up. Frequently, it turns out that salespeople simply replace a cold calls with a cold messages on LinkedIn without taking care of their profiles or publications. And let's face it, that was not a social selling activity. Moving on to the second pillar, which is marketing, you should collect answers to the following questions. To what extent does the company use content marketing today? Content for social selling is like fuel for a car. The program will not develop unless you prepare sufficient materials to be published on LinkedIn, and unless you develop a permanent content delivery process. We must secure this process with continuous delivery to ensure our car engine will not seize up. And remember, in social selling program, it's marketing that is responsible for delivering content. However, it's more about organizing than creating from scratch. That's why cooperation between the sales and marketing department is so essential. So the next question is, what is the relationship between marketing and sales, and what was cooperation like in the past? Relationships between sales and marketing are often brusque. If that's the case in your organization, the success of the program may be at risk. Based on my experience, I would say the conflict boils down to different languages these departments use. The best example is the perception of the word lead. The lead can mean something different for sales and for marketing. A lead for sales often means an arranged meeting, and for marketing, it, for instance, registration on a webinar. And that leads to misunderstandings and disappointments. And if salespeople are disappointed with marketing leads, it becomes harder for them to acknowledge the importance of any marketing activities in the future. How convergent is the marketing ideal customer profile with the sales ICP? Are the parameters that describe the ideal customer profile identical? If social media campaigns are not in line with predefined parameters, that is, number of employees, position level, function in the company or industry, there is a high risk salespeople will keep getting leads that are not up to scratch. And as a result, they tend to reject them for no reason. This, in turn, has a negative impact on the perception of marketing activities and weakens its image. Moving to the next pillar, sales. To what extent do salespeople know the pain points of customers from the perspective of all buying groups' representatives? If you want to create a social selling strategy, or any sales strategy in fact, first you need to define all purchasing group members' roles. The second step is to define their individual problems in order for marketing to prepare content relevant to their personal perspectives. Only by knowing the pain points is marketing able to create such content that salespeople could use as a sales tool. Next question is the company divided into hunters and farmers? If salespeople serve a double role, what is the share of hunting in meeting their quotas? If the program's goal is to acquire customers and the company has 90% of farmers on board, there is no chance that farmers will suddenly become hunters only by using LinkedIn. In these circumstances, we should either change the goals of the program or develop a typical hunter structure. How much expert knowledge do salespeople have or think they have? Today, regardless of whether sales include social selling or not, salespeople must expand their expert knowledge in order to be a partner for the client. For example, in terms of technology, it's not enough for sales to be familiar with some technological details. They must be skillful at embedding technology in the client's business. In social selling, deepening salespeople's expert knowledge is extremely important because salespeople build their brands by publishing content and contributing to discussions. They need to be confident enough to share their expertise in public. If your company has just started a social selling adventure, your sales department may find publishing and commenting difficult because of an inner feeling of insecurity. In this case, you can engage your pre-sales department to support salespeople in providing valuable comments and publications on LinkedIn. You can increase their confidence by using an external content platform. And that leads us to the last area: tools, support, and measurement. Does the organization plan to implement a content publishing platform or Sales Navigator licenses? If the program has more than 10 people, it's hard to handle without a content publishing platform. This platform is a content hub with ready-to-use posts prepared by marketing that could be published directly on LinkedIn individual profiles by means of one click. The platform is not only a bridge to a digital new world, but also an important learning step for salespeople to make them able to produce their own content in the future. In the description box below, you can find a link to the platform I recommend the most because of its user-friendly interface and well-thought-out measuring method. This platform is called Shareby. The next tool is Sales Navigator, which is an additional paid LinkedIn tool, explicitly dedicated to salespeople. Working with this tool is a great asset to salespeople, especially if the company's customers are large organizations with multiple purchasing committees. Find out whether the company has an appropriate budget allocated to this area. Next question is: to what extent is the organization able to provide salespeople with regular training and consultations? A social selling program is a change management program. Change takes place at level of attitude, knowledge, and skills. Therefore, sales teams need constant access to knowledge and practical tips on using LinkedIn. However, what they need the most is examples of how to link their sales processes with social activities so that their motivation to change remains healthy and constant. And the last question is: how will the organization measure the results of the pilot program? As a program leader, you must determine which parameters of the pilot will be relevant KPIs. There are 3 groups of parameters indicating that you are on the right path. The first one is program evaluation with a survey. You can measure assessment of Sales Navigator tool's usefulness, including salespeople and managers. The second group is competence development that you can measure with Content Platform and Sales Navigator. And here we have the following KPIs: new connections, number of publications, number of saved leads in Sales Navigator, number of created lead lists in Sales Navigator. And the last group of metrics is how social selling impacts sales, measuring with your CRM. And here is what you can gauge if the program's goal is not only acquiring new customers: win rate, lifetime of sales opportunities, and lifetime of wins. To measure the effectiveness of social selling, you can compare groups consisting of social sellers to those without program participants. That's how you can see the difference and impact of social selling on sales. If you consider starting the program, the questions above need to be answered. With this key information, the company can develop a strategy that is indispensable to generating revenue from social selling. Don't take off without the solid foundation. Follow the Black Panther to learn more social selling program intricacies. Thanks for watching and see you next time.